Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I want to go through some $500 no-brainer 9.8 comics to invest in. I had recently made a video about some affordable 9.8s, and on that video I said a lot of times it's probably just best to spend like 500 or 1,000 or even more than that just to get a no-brainer key issue. And there were some people in the comments like, okay, give us some $500 no-brainers. So that's what we'll get into today. So the first one is an Amazing Spider-Man 316, like the classic Venom cover that everyone wants. This one's so wantable. Sells really well, yeah, instantly sells, so good. You throw it up in an auction, it's going to sell for like the fair value. This is such a great one. Recently I saw one sell for $569, which I think is a pretty good deal. Maybe get it a little closer to 500 if it looks just amazing. You get it a little closer to 600. The newsstand editions I think are in the kind of 800 or so. Sometimes you see like kind of really good deals on the newsstand, but occasionally they'll get up to about 1,000 as well. Funny today too, I went on the CGC site and their site is shut down right now. Yeah, there's like, I don't know, some protocol thing, like it's not allowing me to access any of the census data. But just from experience, Amazing Spider-Man 316, it looks okay on the census. Like it's a decent one, but not anything great to like really pay up for. I feel like if it was really, really tough in a high grade, it would be like $1,500 or something like that. But it's, an okay 9.8 as far as, toughness. I think the ratio is between 15 and 20%, maybe a little over 20% of all graded copies are 9.8s. But yeah, this one it's just all about the coolness. This is absolutely kind of like the first full, like Venom's face is on the cover before this one, Amazing Spider-Man 315. But this is like the first full Venom cover that everyone loves, and just classic Todd McFarlane cover for sure. So yeah, right around 550, let's call it, for an Amazing Spider-Man 316 is pretty much a no-brainer in my book. So next one is one I really, really like. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures #1. This one is pretty much the first appearance of like the 4-colored bandana Ninja Turtles that, pretty much myself, I didn't even know the Ninja Turtles had the red bandanas until I got a little more into comic books, but, I grew up watching the Ninja Turtle cartoons like a lot of kids, and they got those 4 colors. So I think this one, when I first got into the hobby in 2018, it was barely a key issue. But for me, yeah, I think it's great to get that first appearance of the 4-colored bandanas and how most people know the Turtles nowadays. So this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures is a great one, I think. I saw one sell recently for $449. I think you might even be able to get this a little closer to $400, so a little under the $500 budget. Yeah, these are all kind of around the $500. It's kind of hard to find all the books that are right around 500. I'd rather just go top quality, and some are a little below, some are a little over. But yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures #1. It doesn't look the best on the census. I tried to look this morning, but the site was shut down. I believe it's kind of 30 to 40% of all graded copies are 9.8. So this isn't really a tough one, but I think it absolutely used to be a really underrated first appearance, I think, of the colored bandanas. But now I think, people recognize it as a key. Yeah, if this one was a little more tougher in a 9.8, I think it'd probably be pushing that $1,000 level in a direct edition. I think the newsstands are they got a pretty good premium. I'm pretty sure they're about 800 or so for a newsstand. This one is kind of a cool one to get in the newsstand. It's late 80s, kind of just looks cool with that barcode for some reason. There's also Canadian price variance for this one as well. So yeah, if you really like this one, you can go for the newsstand or the price variance. But I think, yeah, right around 400 is like a great, pretty much a no-brainer, I think. And yeah, I saw one sell for $449 on the TMNT Adventures #1 in a 9.8. Okay, next one does look really good on the census, even though I wasn't able to look it up this morning, but I remember it's Batman Adventures Mad Love, the origin of Harley Quinn. Great cover that just is so wantable, the Bruce Timm cover. This is just kind of one to have for this classic Bruce Timm cover. He's like, him and Paul Dini are really like the Batman Adventures originators almost for sure. But this one's really great on the census as well for a 1990s comic. This one's almost right up there with Batman Adventures 12, to be honest. Batman Adventures 12 is a great one. It's pretty much the one to get. I think that one's still kind of in that like 2,300 to occasionally they'll get over to 2,500, I believe, for Batman Adventures 12. But in the Mad Love, I saw a couple sell $427.99, $412.99. That's right around where I purchased mine. I bought mine like in, I think it was 2021. Yeah, getting into the pandemic and the hot comic book market. This is one of those purchases that actually has kind of stood the test of time, even during that hot comic book market. It did go higher, I think some were selling for $700 to $800 at one point there, but it's come back to that kind of early pandemic price, which is still good. I think that's pretty much hanging in there for most books. So I think a Batman Adventures Mad Love is totally worth right around $400. Myself, I have one of these, and I don't have a Batman Adventures 12. I'm a pretty big Harley Quinn fan, but maybe not the biggest to be, spend over $2,000. So yeah, Batman Adventures Mad Love just is the perfect sweet spot for me. Yeah, and as I mentioned, it looks great on the census. I'm pretty sure a teens 9.8 ratio for a 1990s book is amazing, and tough black cover. And I'm pretty sure there's only like 200 or 300. Like there's not a lot either. Yeah, this one is just all around. You get a lot of book for right around $400. Yeah, definite no-brainer in my books. So next one is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, #1. Yeah, you get all the big first appearances in this one. Baroness and all the Joes and Cobra Commander and Snake Eyes as well. Yeah. So a lot to love about this one. Love the cover too. Yeah, it's a Herb Trimpe, Bob Layton cover, I believe. I do have this one too. And saw a couple sales recently, $575, but then I saw one sell like a week or two later for $781. So I think closer to 500 is, you pretty much want to buy this one on the pullback, closer to 500. Maybe if it looks amazing, you can think about paying up to $781. I think that was a bit of a bidding war. It kind of broke out recently. It'll be interesting to see where this one kind of settles in, but pretty much a no-brainer, especially if you watch, G.I. Joe cartoons growing up. I was more of a G.I. Joe guy than a Transformers guy, I think, growing up. More a G.I. Joe and Turtles for me. But, and the Transformers is over 1,000, so it's not really in this price range. Yeah, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero #1 in a 9.8. It doesn't look the best on the census. I always, during the pandemic, that Snake Eyes movie came out, and I was saying, don't touch this one. You don't buy it. The price had went up. I think these were over 2,000 at one point. And I always thought, there's a lot of them out there. I think there's about 800 or so in a 9.8. Plus, not the best ratio, so it's not like the toughest high-grade comic. So it was always hands-off during the pandemic on this one. But it is one I have. It's one I'd purchased kind of pre-pandemic. Mine was, I think, $375. In 2019 it would have been, I'd purchased that. So it's still hanging in there, compared to that price, pre-pandemic prices, it's still, nicely above that. And I think you got a long-term time horizon on this one, and all of these pretty much, I think, you'll do pretty well. Especially, I think, if you can get it closer to $575, totally worth it on G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero #1. Okay, next one is definitely a no-brainer. It's Wolverine Limited Series #1. The first solo Wolverine comic book. Saw a couple of these sell for, one was $555, one was $618. This is another one that, such a big key, pretty much a no-brainer, but in the 9.8, there's a ton of them, and it doesn't have the best ratio. I think it's like mid-20s or something like that. So this was one that got right around 1,000, maybe a little over 1,000 during the pandemic, but taking a pretty big haircut, but still kind of, hanging in there. And I think on the pullback, this is one you want to get, even though it is not the toughest, 9.8. And yeah, sorry again, I've looked to try to look up the CGC census data this morning, but their site is shut down right now, unfortunately. But yeah, Wolverine Limited Series is kind of like a meh for a 9.8 on the census. It's not the best. There's a lot of them. It's such a popular book. So many graded, so many out there. But $555, maybe even a little closer to $500 in a direct edition, I think is a pretty great buy. Pretty much a no-brainer. The newsstands, yeah, this is because there's a ton of them. The newsstands are really sought after. Like this book in Secret Wars #8. I think the big collectors that they know that they're not very tough on the census, so they really go after the newsstand. And I think the newsstands are about $1,000 or so. If you're interested in that. Okay, next one I do have as well. Uncanny X-Men 142. Yeah, kind of a bit of an under the radar one on this one. I got a really nice copy too. I love this one. Great colors, solid centering, and a newsstand edition as well. For me, 142 is just a way better cover. Like it's kind of than 141 because you really compare them because they're Days of the Future Past storyline. But 142, just a great cover, I think, and a little bit underrated. Yeah, compared to 141, I think looks okay on the census. They're very similar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this might even have the better ratio and maybe a little bit less copies. Because, 141 is more of the main key issue. I do have that one in a newsstand too. Yeah, these are kind of like one of the big prides of my collection. I loved the Days of Future Past when I was growing up. And to have both of them in a newsstand in a 9.8 is like one of the things that makes me the happiest. But, 142, I saw a couple sell $405. And $393. For mine, I'd purchased mine pre-pandemic. It was like $275 for the newsstand though, and at that point, it was like an overpay pretty much. Like I remember seeing them kind of in an auction go around $225, and I don't think the newsstands get like a huge premium. A little bit of a premium, but not a huge premium. This is an early '80s book, so the newsstands aren't as special, but still, in a super high grade 9.8, the newsstands always get a little bit more money. Even in the early '80s. So $405, $393. I think it's totally worth it for a really nice looking Uncanny X-Men 142. Especially if you got a little bit of like a connection to it. Yeah, just a great X-Men book of the era. The John Byrne, Terry Austin, Chris Claremont era of X-Men is like my favorite era of comics, pretty much. Yeah, I remember just getting right into that when I was a kid and just loving the covers and the colors and all the heroes on the cover, and just great stories as well. All the classic stories, like pretty much the X-Men animated series was based on all the classic stories from the John Byrne era of X-Men. Okay, and the last no-brainer here and is Predator #1. Predator #1 in a 9.8. I think this one's a pretty great one. It's a Dark Horse comic, so I think probably a little bit less printed than most of the Marvel comics and DC comics of the time. This one's done really well, yeah, and I'm like it heated up a lot during the pandemic because like I think during that time Disney had purchased like the rights to Alien and Predator, I believe it was. It's really held its value, yeah, because I think on that sort of news during the pandemic, it went from like 300 and something to 600 or 700 and something. And recent prices on Predator #1, $558.99 and $632. So, yeah, I think this one, given that, the MCU or Disney has the rights, there's probably going to be a bunch of movies and comic books coming out with Predator, and there already has. Predator will probably stay in pop culture for a while. And yeah, for me, this is one I don't have, and I wish I'd grabbed it when it was 300 and something, I think it was even 200 and something in 2019. Because, I grew up watching The Predator. Like, that was like one of my favorite movies, all the Arnold movies, like Predator and Commando and Terminator. So this is one that, I just wish I had it. Now that it's a little more expensive, I'm, kind of hesitant to pull the trigger, but who knows, maybe it'll happen at some point. But I think Predator #1 is pretty much a no-brainer. It looks okay on the census, but it's more about, it's probably a Dark Horse comic and it wasn't super heavily printed. So there's not too many in the 9.8, but I think the ratio is, kind of a meh. But if you like Predator, I think, hopefully, $558.99, you might even be able to get this a little closer to $500 if, things cool down a little bit. There does seem to be like a lot of Predator comics coming out. There's probably some Predator movie that I don't even know about that's going to come out in a year or two. But yeah, I think Predator #1 is pretty much a no-brainer, especially if you're a Predator fan and you grew up watching those movies and stuff. Okay, that'll be all for today. If you can think of any $500, like there was a few, like Teen Titans 2, the first appearance of Deathstroke, the Terminator. I think that one's like, $550 or so. Like there's a few that I left out, but yeah, if you think of any right around that $500 level in a 9.8, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I think I'm going to kind of stick with this theme and maybe do like $1,000 no-brainer and just kind of do the, like I know I did this a couple years ago, but the prices have changed so much because, after the pandemic, things have come down so much. So it kind of makes sense to kind of make these tier videos of some no-brainer 9.8 comics to invest in. Okay, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.